Who would have thought I'd be nervous that my sermon follows the synagogue president's speech? Good Yontif. 940. From the time a child is born until the time he or she turns 18 and leaves the house, you have just less than 940 Saturdays to hold them and to mold them, to share with them and to care for them. You have 940 Saturdays to kiss boo-boos and to teach them to tie their shoes, to read them red fish, blue fish, and to teach them what it means to be Jewish. You have 940 Saturdays to pray with them and to play with them, to drive with them and to strive with them. You have 940 Saturdays. Your parents had 940 Saturdays with you too, or you had 940 Saturdays with them. That's it. 940 Saturdays before they more or less turned you loose on the world. On the 941st Saturday or thereabouts, many of us left for college or the army, the workforce, or even marriage. We're blessed though. God gave us another 940 Saturdays to transition from 18 to 36, finishing college, living on our own, perhaps getting married and starting a family. We began then counting a different set of 940 Saturdays, this time with our own kids. Then God usually, but not always, gives us another 940 Saturdays, ages 36 to 54. We build a career and continue to raise a family. If we're lucky, we can travel a bit. We also watch our parents begin to age. Then from 54 to 72, God gives us another 940 Saturdays. Our careers peak, and then we cap them off. We also, during that time, send children off to college. We watch our friends sometimes get sick. We ourselves battle our own illness and disease. Many of us lose our parents and other relatives. We take the chance to pursue interests we might have neglected earlier. Some of us become grandparents. If we're really blessed, we receive yet another 940 Saturdays, ages 72 to 90. Often retirement, more grandchildren arrive, and for some, great-grandchildren. We are at our wisest, though it feels as if few ask us our insights. We lose friends. We lose family. After 90, very few of us will receive the next full 940. That's it. 940 Saturdays for each stage of life. Goes pretty quick, doesn't it? Especially when you do the math, and I know some of you did, to realize that 18 years is actually only 936 Saturdays. Some scholars say the Jews invented time. Well, they didn't actually say we invented time, but we did give it form and shape. Before the Jews, life was perceived as a circle, a metaphoric wheel. Childhood, adolescence, marriage, children, and then death. We planted crops, tended them, harvested them, ate them, and the circle started all over again, a primitive existence. But when God said to Abraham, Lech Lecha, go forth, the partnership between God and the Jewish people seemed to set the world on a forward linear line. There was a beginning, and since that moment, the scope of human history is moving toward a final destination, a messianic era in which time becomes irrelevant. Rabbi Arthur Waskow, however, merges the two metaphors. Our lives, he teaches, are a spiral, each year going round and round, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, Sukkot, Hanukkah and Purim, Passover and Shavuot. School starts, finals, winter break, spring break, finals, summer vacation. Detroit, Boca, Miami, Boca, Detroit again. This is the cycle of our years. But that cycle is moving along the continuum that started with God commanding Abraham, Lech Lecha, and continues until a time when our great-great-grandchildren might know true and lasting peace. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel famously saw an even tighter spiral, with each circle centered around Shabbat. The Sabbath, he declared, is our sanctuary in time, our sanctuary from time. As Heschel wrote, the Sabbaths are our great cathedrals, and our Holy of Holies is a shrine that neither the Romans nor the Germans were able to burn. A shrine that even apostasy cannot easily obliterate, the Day of Atonement. We are today in that Holy of Holies, this sanctuary within a sanctuary, on the Sabbath of Sabbaths, when time transcends us. By participating in the prayers, laws, and customs of Yom Kipppur, we link ourselves backward and forward to thousands of years of our family chain. Whether time is circular, linear, or spiral, each generation has sought to measure that time. 5,500 years ago, the Egyptians invented the sundial. The first portable timepiece, also invented by the Egyptians, came to be about 3,500 years ago and allowed one to divide sunlight into 10 equal parts. Since that time, there certainly have been improvements as each subsequent generation has sought to use time more efficiently. Today we have the Apple Watch and Detroit's own Shinola, both of which are only modifications to that which was invented more than 3,000 years ago. More and more, our world is obsessed with time and the efficient use thereof. Yet with all of our efforts at multitasking, portable technology, and scheduling ourselves and our kids ad nauseum, it's clear to me that we're failing to maximize time in a meaningful way. As we gather at this Yizkor hour, we're acutely mindful of the time misused or time taken for granted with our loved ones, what we would give for one more hour. But at each stage of life, God gives us only 940 Saturdays, 940 Shabbatot. That could be then 940 Friday night dinners surrounded by your children or grandchildren. And it wouldn't hurt to turn off the cell phones in the evening as well. That could be 940 Friday night dinners with a spouse or a friend, enjoying a good glass of kosher Israeli wine or your favorite food. You could have 940 opportunities to listen to our chazan and assistant cantor daven, to engage in learning, reflection, rest, friendship, community, as part of an intergenerational chain. At each stage, God gives us only 940 Saturdays. How are we to make them count? The answer, of course, is not with better cell phones or computers, not with signing our kids up for more travel leagues or binge-watching Netflix. The answer, of course, is to identify the ones we love the most in this world and find meaningful opportunities to engage them in conversation and in laughter, in play, and in love. At this Yizkor hour, when we remember hands held, hugs shared, and time well spent, we must look to those who remain with us, our family and friends, and seek meaningful opportunities to maximize our time with them. In just a few minutes, we'll recite the Mourner's Kaddish. While the Kaddish is an ancient prayer, the tradition evolved over the last 1,000 or so years that those who have lost a member of their immediate family, parent, child, sibling, or spouse, are to say Kaddish in memory of those loved ones. Our rabbis created this custom as a response to the needs of those in mourning. One, that mourners should have something specific to do, an outlet for those powerful emotions. And in their sadness, mourners should still praise God. The word death is never mentioned in the Kaddish. Rather, the Kaddish is a statement about life and the author of life. It's a way, even in the midst of our sadness, to praise God and to give thanks for the time given with those. Yizkor, which nowadays we conduct 4 times a year, is a special memorial service created as a response to the loss of Jewish life during the Crusades. Over time, as part of Yizkor, the custom even developed for those who've not yet suffered a loss to leave the room, lest they tempt the ayin hara, the evil eye, and thus bring death upon a family member. Some choose to maintain this custom of avoiding Yizkor as a form of celebrating life. Some see leaving in the middle of a service as outdated superstition, especially in light of so many of the 6 million for whom there is no family left to say Kaddish. Like the Kaddish, Yizkor too ought to be about more than death. It should be about life. Yizkor should be an opportunity to consider the meaningful moments spent with those we love the most. And it must be an opportunity to remind ourselves to focus on that which is most important, our family and friends who are with us this very day. That ultimately is the message of Yizkor. And frankly, I imagine that would be the message our dearly departed would communicate back to us if they could. This service, Yizkor, which means remembrance, is about our capacity to remember that which was most important and that which continues to be most important. More than anything, calling on the memory of those we love who are no longer with us in this physical world. Yizkor reminds us to live wisely and meaningfully, to utilize the precious little time allotted to us to make a difference in the lives of others, and to cherish deeply and richly the time we have with those we love the most. 940 Saturdays. 940 Saturdays. 940 Saturdays. May God grant us the wisdom and the strength to use each one of them properly. And let us say together, Amen. We continue now with the Yizkor service.